pushing the boat out. It's not really what many console manufacturers want to do anymore. Think of the Virtual Boy, the Kinect, the PlayStation Move. Ideas for more interactive gaming that went nowhere. The Wii was the anomaly here, and in fact, its existence spearheaded the creation of Sony and Microsoft's attempt at cashing in on motion control. Nintendo striving to set themselves apart from the competition is what sets them apart from the competition. They invent new ways to interact with the games we play. In the past, we've seen dance mats, an odd motion-sensing octagon you put on the floor for your Mega Drive, and iconic peripherals such as the Power Glove. But back in the late 80s, there was something on the horizon that could have blown all these more gimmicky devices out of the water. Something revolutionary. Something that could have changed how we interact with and play video games forever. This is the legendary video game console that never was. 1989. The NES was absolutely at its height. The 8-bit era is firmly underway, and we've made it out of the infamous video game crash of 1983, thanks E.T. New, more powerful hardware was on the horizon, and other companies were looking to poke their finger in the console market pie. But there was a group of people looking to break into the 8-bit market what seemed a little late, but with what they brought to the table made Nintendo just seem very, very early. If you're in the know about the UK gaming and personal computer scene from back in the 80s, you'll have heard of Sinclair, the folks behind the ZX Spectrum. A handful of ex-employees went on to form Flare Technology and produce the Flare 1 8-bit chipset, which was used in arcade cabinets at the time. The concept of a home console bearing Flare 1 probably wasn't on their minds. That was until the unlikeliest of folk turned up with a proposition. Conex were a Welsh company who manufactured joysticks and the like for PCs back in the 80s. Their knowledge of input hardware paired with the power of Flare 1 and the ex-Sinclair lot made their potential system something really special, and it was indeed. The Conex multi-system was pretty much exactly what it said on the tin. Much like what we saw with the Wii back in 2006, it was set to introduce a whole new way of interacting with video games. Think of the tennis racket add-on for the Wii Remote that did absolutely nothing of function, but with function. Or like a Switch with a Joy-Con replacement of a second touch panel or a dedicated design for a different game. The multi-system was set to do all of this and more way back in 1989. The gaming landscape could have been very different today if the multi-system did come to market. Alongside the announcement of the console, the number of peripherals revealed was something truly astonishing. The biggest reveal was the steering wheel controller with pedals, which had interchangeable wheels replacing it with handlebars for a motorbike game, for example. Something else way ahead of its time was coined as the Conex Power Chair, a hydraulic motion simulator-esque chair with possible flight stick input, as well as the existing steering wheel pedal configuration. Your light gun for shooters was available too, but this time with a recoil system. If all that stuff didn't really set it apart from the competition, the games for the system were written on 3.5-inch floppy disks, making it seem more of a home PC than a console, further establishing that this thing was gonna be powerful. The 8-bit graphics, 4,000 plus colours and stereo sound, and a truly astonishing £200 price point, not including the chair obviously, made the multi-system the talk of the town. Video game developers were somewhat on board. The novelty of the input methods and the power of the system was something that piqued their interest, but the people behind the system were new to this scene, which did raise some understandable concerns, but it was all looking up. Then, nothing happened. This wasn't all talk and no actual hardware, as dev kits were made, as were a handful of games. Prototype builds existed for conferences and trade shows, and some software developers even claimed to have finished retail versions of the system, so what gives? Some say Conex simply ran out of money. This would have been an expensive endeavour, and hype doesn't pay the bills. The folk behind the console were keen to keep it to themselves, wanting the multi-system to be of their own endeavour, irrelevant of some rather attractive companies hovering around registering interest in helping out the system, Lucasfilm being one of them. The not bottomless well of funding appears to be the most likely cause for the Conex multi-system's demise, but that might not be entirely the case. As for whether there were any more factors in the death of the system, we'll never know unless someone on the original team ever pipes up. As for its legacy, the multi-system essentially lives on through Atari. The team behind Flare 1 ended up working with them on what was to become the Atari Jaguar. As much as the system didn't have umpteen different input methods or a hydraulic chair for a true 64-bit immersion experience, the development was very similar to that of the multi-system in its early stages. However, the Flare team were only a small piece of a much larger puzzle, and the Jaguar became what Atari originally wanted it to become, which I guess was a not very successful console, obviously.